Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Tripti Sharan. I'm a gynecologist by profession and an author by choice. I believe writing connects people, it evolves societies, and it's a very effective medium to bring about a change. Writing is like bearing your soul to everyone, but still, I love writing. We're all living different lives, and so much would be lost if we do not share with each other. My book, House of Doctors, tells you about the lives of medical students, how they are pushing new boundaries every day in their zeal, in their quest to be known as lifesavers. It tells you about their dilemmas, about their fears, and above all, their tenacity to laugh, to love, and to live. Despite living in a redundant infrastructure in a whole world full of disease and suffering. My earlier book, Chronicles of a Gynecologist, was also anecdotal. It was also on medical journal, and it told real life stories of women who come into my clinic. But my recent book, Being Radha Beyond Her Love and His Leela, talks about the most revered and most celebrated, much loved, yet poorly understood goddess Radha. It's her life, her voice, her story. And her story is much contemporary, it is fascinating, it is enthralling. Dear friends, all my books are available online and in major bookstores. Please do read them and, if possible, drop your feedback to me so that I evolve as an author. Thank you so much. Love you all.
Good afternoon and welcome to Studio One. We all know that we civilians live our lives safely because our brave hearts are awake at the borders. This is the topic of today's discussion: brave hearts of the country. Our guests are Lieutenant Colonel Satish Dua, Mr. Kulpreet Yadav, and Miss Geetanjali Joshi. Lieutenant General Satish Dua retired as the Chief of Integrated Defense Staff. A counter-terrorism specialist, General Dua was the corps commander in Kashmir who planned and executed the surgical strikes in response to the terror attack at Uri. He has commanded his battalion as well as a brigade in active militancy in Jammu and Kashmir on line of control. He has authored a book about soldiers' lives on the LOC titled India's Brave Hearts. He is a TEDx and a motivation speaker for youth forums and corporate leadership talks. A product of the Naval Officers Academy, Mr. Kulpreet Yadav has spent 2 decades as an officer in uniform and has successfully commanded 3 ships in his career. Since his retirement as commandant from the Indian Coast Guard in 2014, he has authored several books in diverse genres, including espionage, true crime, and romance. Winner of the Best Fiction Author Award for Murder in Paharganj, an espionage novel at the Gurgaon Literary Festival in 2018, Kulpreet is also an actor and a filmmaker. His latest book is called The Battle of Rezangla. The discussion will be led by Ms. Geetanjali Joshi. She is an established writer in Marathi and has 7 books published so far. Her new book, which is being released soon, is about women's experiences in 1971 Indo-Pak War, which includes her own experience in 1971 war. She has conducted various seminars and as well as moderated discussions in literary gatherings. I now request Ms. Gitanjali to begin the discussion.
Greetings to all the book loving viewers who are joining us today for today's session. And I hope you enjoyed as much as we all are going to enjoy doing it for you. We have two very proficient and successful authors on our panel today. They have many similarities and yet they have a very unique style of their own. So I'm sure we are going to enjoy the discussion as well as hearing about their experiences. We have a very distinguished, highly decorated officer. We are lucky to have him. Lieutenant General Satish Dua, PVSM, UISM, SM, VSM. A brave warrior turned author who has created quite a stir with his first book itself. India's Brave Heart, the book has been published in 2020. It has a foreword by the present Army Chief, General Naravne, and it has sold over 10,000 copies. Huge response from the readers. General Dua's 39 years of military service, it's been a glorious journey. At every stage of his career, he has achieved remarkable tasks. It has been a journey any army officer would be proud of. He was a commando instructor as a young captain. When he got his colonel's rank, he raised and commanded the new Assam Rifles and coordinated operations in 3 states of Northeast. His special area of work has been counterterrorism. As a co commander, he planned and executed the most talked about surgical strike in September 2016 after the Uri Pakistani attack. The chapter in the book about the surgical strike is extremely well written and gripping. His last posting before his retirement as a lieutenant general was as a chief of integrated defense staff, IDS as we call it. He retired after 9 years of glorious service. After hanging his uniform, he has donned a new avatar of a successful writer. Today, we want to know more about his work as a writer, as well as what he's penned and what he's about to be putting in front of you. So, General Dua, good morning. And
Good morning,
uh,
Geetanjali.
yes, and it's so nice to have you on the panel, and it gives us a chance to experience new things after hearing from you about the army, especially for people who don't know the army so well.
Thank you
But
very much. Thank you very much for those kind words you've said about me. I also take this opportunity to thank the Pune International Literary Festival 2021 for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to interact with you all. And I'm sure it will enrich this interaction is going to enrich my own learning. Thank you.
General Duat, so first question I want to put across is how did you take to writing after your retirement? Like now normally people say, now I worked enough, I'll just play golf and enjoy myself. And how did you turn to writing? What inspired you to write your first book?
Uh, uh, Frankly, I also like to just play golf and enjoy life, and I'm still doing that as well. Horse riding and motorbiking separate, mountain biking separately.
Yes.
But to answer your question squarely, as you read out in my introduction, I have been in counterterrorism situations all my life,
Yes.
especially in the command appointments.
Yes.
So I had a lot of first-hand experiences, and
Hmm.
whenever I went for some talks, I was invited for a lot of talks, and I'm very happy to sort of invest my time without any returns, but invest my time with the youth give
Yes.
give it back to the society, or say give it forward, whichever way you look at it. The idea
Yes.
is to, they are the leaders of tomorrow. So I am very happy to, and I used to do a lot of, I still do a lot of talks around colleges and all, universities and others gatherings. I would use anecdotes from my experiences,
Yes.
and but naturally they were more around, the loyalties and the bonds of love and loyalty that you form with the soldiers, the lives that
Yes.
they lead on the LOC, because every step there is a learning which can also be suitably modified and applied in civil life, or in the
Yes.
corporate world. So I've used that even in corporate talks. As I started giving these anecdotes slowly, then several people told me that I need to, I should put them down.
Yeah.
And that is how it began. And I was very fortunate that the publisher, uh, Juggernaut Books, the CEO and the owner, she was very encouraging, Chiki Sarkar, and I must thank her and her team for sort of offering it to me, even having seen what I was capable of writing or not. So I went on to it.
Obviously, she was right there, and she got a good writer in you, and you've written a wonderful book there. But
Thank you.
what were your hurdles in writing this book? Did you have any hurdles in
Well,
putting it across?
yes, the biggest hurdle I faced was, these are sensitive topics. Not everything
Yes,
can be put out in public domain. Yet
yes,
you
quite
don't
right.
want to lose out. You don't want to lose out the authenticity or the originality by cutting out or shrouding too much.
Yes,
So that was a tightrope walk, and one had to do that because obviously you can't put out things in public domain that should not be put out, no matter that
yes,
one is retired.
yes,
So that was something that needed doing, and so that's the only thing I felt. Rest, uh, it was a pleasure. It really was a treat to sit down and write, and then redo it and improve it, and every time some new ideas would strike. So I think that was the only hurdle I would like worth mentioning.
yes. Like I remember reading in your book about the incident where before the Uri strike, before the surgical strike, you met the defense minister Parikar, and the whole discussion you put across without giving any details, but yet making us feel as if we are watching the whole scene ourselves. So I think I get the point in what you're saying, but I think
Thank
you
you.
crossed the hurdle very skillfully in that case. Yeah.
Thank you.
and
Thank you
and
very much.
and then in this book you mention, I mean, it's a collection of stories of your experiences, isn't it? While you
True.
were in service, you traveled a lot and you met a lot of people, especially the villagers and people around the army camps, and how you interacted with them. And some of those stories have very beautifully come into the book. Of course, the highlight of the book is the surgical strike across LOC. But I felt that many little stories you put across, like wearing the helmet and the woman in the village and things like that. So all throughout your career, were you keeping some kind of a documentation of what all like whatever happened every day, and then you refer to it, or it just came to you in your from your memory, all
The
these
short
little
answer is
things?
no. The short answer is no. I really wish I could have kept some notes or records, but two things precluded it. One, I never thought of it. I mean, I never thought I'm going
Yes,
to write.
yes,
Most
yeah,
of these stories are during my colonel days. That is the last
yes.
level as a colonel, as commanding
Right, you could
officer,
go
battalion,
openly
that you
and
are
yeah,
into the
yeah,
battle yourself. You
right,
are actually fighting yourself. Thereafter, you get into more directional level. You may be present somewhere, but then it
yes,
is not your job to actually wield the gun. So
right,
at that time there was no time. One was so busy in operations. And
Yeah.
like I started off the book by thanking my dad for encouraging me. And I said, my father used to always say, "Boy, you must write about your experience," just like you said, and keep notes and all that. I used
Yes.
to tell
Yes.
him that I'm too busy soldiering this thing. So, I mean, I hope that answers your questions. No, I did not keep any notes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish
Yeah.
I had. But I'll just like to say one more sentence, if you'll permit me.
Mhm.
Such experiences,
Yeah.
such death-defying acts by soldiers, or some very poignant moments when you lose somebody, or how a soldier tries to defend you or defend somebody else by putting his life on
Yeah.
risk.
Yeah.
These things just don't go away from your memory. Just
Yeah.
don't.
It never
I mean,
leaves you. Yeah. Yeah. It never
yes,
leaves
yes.
you.
You
That
once
is
you sit down and write, everything comes back to you, and when you do the second time over, you'll be able to polish it. So I do
yeah.
miss not having kept notes, but I think it didn't hamper me in any significant manner.
Yeah. Yeah. Your story about the surgical strike is really very gripping, and it gives you beautiful details, which maybe even that watching that movie one wouldn't get, but you really make it come alive for us. But I, as a woman, I was
ये
very
ऐसे नहीं
impressed
होता
by
सीमा
some
आपका
stories that
वो अपने
reflect
कॉफी
the
होगा टर्निंग वाला
social life of a family members. How the families coped up. Like there's a very cute little thing you've written about when your family was staying in Jammu and you were on the border, and all the wives in that separated family quarters used to come near the mango tree where there was a 1990s, so there were no mobiles and all so much. So they
True.
used to come there to receive calls from their husbands who were fighting, on the borders, waiting for their husbands to call them. And that's a very beautiful story you've written. It sort of reminds me that very, very few times what the women go through is recorded in, I mean, it's documented in the books. Um,
In fact, if you allow an
yeah,
interruption, I think you more than others will be able to appreciate that. Not only having been an armed forces senior officer's wife, you've come through all the ranks, you've written about it, and congratulations, by the way, on your latest
thank you
book.
so
So
much.
you do understand the pain because you have your personal experiences, and besides that, I'm sure you must have sort of
I've
researched
seen
and
so
found out
many.
more
Yeah,
stories
yeah,
for your book. And once you
yes,
research, you find out more. You really get a full picture image springs to your mind. So yes, you are right. And I think those stories. And today there are several authors who are writing, especially ladies, spouses of armed forces
yes.
officers and wives, which is a very good thing because their stories need to be told.
Yeah, that is true. And you've done part of it, so I must thank you for that.
Thank
So,
you.
now I'm slightly changing tracks, but
Yes,
recently the nation went through a very big shock when we lost General Rawat and Mrs. Rawat
true.
and their staff members in a very tragic air crash. I think none of us have got over the tragedy as yet. I think you knew General Rawat, and you have a very sweet memory when you finished the book and you presented it to General Rawat. We would like to hear about it, if you could tell us.
True. Um, General Rawat, I knew General Rawat and Madhu Rawat very well on a personal plane. We were friends. He was just
Mm.
one batch senior to me in NDA. We've
Oh,
done course training courses together. We've been posted together at more than one places. We've been interacting socially, know each other's children. So one goes back a long way. In fact, I wrote a piece the very next day in the Times of India editorial page, and then Danik Bhaskar about his
yes,
sad
yes,
passing and all. I think General Rawat was an enigma. He was unique and rare, if not unique. I mean, I think unique only because he was the first chief of defense staff, and an appointment that he held for 2 years before the fate plucked him away from this earth.
Yes.
But unique because also that he was at the helm to include his army chief's tenure for 5 years, and
Yes.
he has not been just like any other general. He has been a transformer, a reformer. He
Hmm.
has changed many things. That is why a mandate was given to him to revolutionize, change, integrate the three forces, to which there is a lot of friction. I won't get into that. What I'm trying
Yeah.
to say, bring out the qualities of a man, his ability to take up challenges. He
Hmm.
was, I would say, he was so blunt in his approach at times. All strongmen are controversial. So he stirred up a few. He did not hesitate from jumping into a controversial issue or making a statement which was very strong. So
Yes.
I think in them we've lost a great son of India in General Rawat, and Madhu Rawat, God rest his soul, was a very gentle and a very gracious lady. She took care of all that. I mean, you realize that yourself. The charter
Yeah.
that a senior officer's wives fulfill
Yeah.
by virtue of taking care of welfare, administrative, emotional, and many other issues of the soldiers, sailors, and air warriors' wives. So
Like a mother figure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so well, true.
But
And for me also, like I said, yes,
when you presented your book to him, what did he say?
yes.
Or you have something very sweet to say about that, I believe. Yeah. When you gave your book
Uh,
to him, how did he react?
No, when I gave my book to him, so he was already the CDS. He was already the
Okay.
CDS
Okay.
at that
Uh-huh.
time, and the foreword has been written by Jalal Naravne,
Uh-huh.
the
Yes.
army chief.
Yes. Yes.
So when he saw the book, uh, and in fact, he said, I knew you were going to someday come out with something like this, because I did not interact with him while I was
Yes.
writing the book.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, these are the stories. I'm very happy that you've written someone who's senior enough and not writing a senior officer at this level. I mean, having reached the highest levels. So not writing only about strategy and this and higher thinking and big
Yes. 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 The
hardcover books.
human
This is
side. Human side.
every soldier can read, every soldier can
Yeah.
relate to, and that is why the book has been published, has been translated in Hindi, and just last month
Yes.
the Hindi
Yes.
translation called Bharat Ke Jambaz is
Yes.
in the market, and now soldiers relate to it, and
Yeah,
that's a
I'm
very
so glad
happy
because
thing.
such books should come into regional languages because then you have more
Yes,
readership
we
and
are,
it reaches more people.
even
So I'm
even
so
Kannada
glad
book
that
has
this
been
has happened.
translated.
Oh,
Sorry, the
wonderful.
book has also been translated into Kannada. Where the talks are on in the final stages, and I'm sure the book will be out soon
General
in
Dua, I
Kannada.
hope it comes in Marathi also. My Marathi viewers can, Marathi
Uh,
readership is big.
Ma'am, to be very frank,
Yeah.
that why don't you do it? I mean, that the onus is on you. In the sense, someone, a Marathi writer, would like to
Yeah,
take it
yeah,
up. Oh,
I'm
something
I'm
like this. I
I'm
have
all
no.
for it
Yes,
because we have a
it'll
very
be
great readership in Maharashtra.
yes, true, true. It'll be a great idea. Yes,
Yeah, yeah, it's very nice. These are the sweet moments which are like precious things for a writer, isn't it?
yes, yes.
General Dua, I want to ask you something because you've been a high-ranking officer, and maybe you're the right person to ask this question to. I'm very curious to know about something. Earlier days, all these military operations were strictly guarded secrets. Like even in your article about the Uri strike, I mean the surgical strike, you mentioned
Yes.
how careful you were that nothing should be written, nothing should be conveyed to anyone. There's a lot of secrecy observed for the mission. And nowadays, what is happening is when something happens in the forge, the media takes over and all the details are out and everything is out in public. I mean, I don't know. What are your views about it? Is it right, wrong, or how does it affect the missions? Like, as a
Well,
high-ranking officer, what are your views about it?
Well, Geetanjali, I like to put it this way. You are
Hmm.
right. Today, there is a great amount of openness, transparency, glassnosed. Some of it is forced upon us. Left to
Hmm.
themselves, militaries all over the world would like to be secretive. We are like that. Media and social media, on the other hand, is very uh, nosy, to put it very colloquially, is
Yeah.
investigative, almost intrusive, and everybody's tripping over each other and over themselves to put out the story first. So sometimes,
Yes.
with the technology advancements, that everyone has a little mobile phone, and you could actually be posting, reposting a untruth or a half-baked truth,
So
and
many rumors
suddenly
float around. Yeah, yeah,
true.
yeah.
So I think the smartness lies
Hmm.
in giving some information which can be
Yeah.
shared. You don't have to give your tactics or modalities or future plans, but giving out some information will ensure that you don't, run into them speculating and coming out with some fantasy stories or,
Yes.
unreal angles, which alarm the public, because public tends to
Yes.
believe what is spread to them in media and social media. So I think
Right.
we have to change with times, and
Yes.
times today force on us a different way of doing things, as is bound to happen with the technology threshold being raised. For instance, in this, you mentioned the story about the telephone
Yes.
booth.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
today I wanted to write that story because my sons would have still seen the telephone, but I'm saying younger people today, there are who have not even seen a landline phone and
Yeah.
things like
The,
that. Everyone
di-
is
the,
on.
the dialing types to have just gone out like an
Yes,
antique.
and you and I have seen times when there was no STD. You had to book a trunk call. If most of us didn't have phones, landlines at home, and we went to the post office or someplace and booked the call. So we have seen those changes. So I think
Yes.
technology is forcing too many things. And then, coming back to your question, I think it's better that we change ourselves, because they are not going to stop.
Yes. Yes. I suppose so. And now, the thing is, a very very cliche question maybe, or you must have heard it thousand times in all your this, but what are the future plans, General Dua? Are you planning any more books?
Uh, I am at the moment working on a book, and that is to do with the in is the setting is JNK, Jammu and
Okay.
Kashmir, and it's
Mm.
to do with the. I wonder if you've heard of the word called Ikhwan. Now, Ikhwan was a concept in the early 90s. It lasted for a
Mhm.
decade or so, where surrendered terrorists were
Mhm.
helping the army and the security forces to
Mhm.
counter terrorism,
Okay.
and
Okay.
they were sort of being they were sort of nurtured by the forces, by the state, and
Okay.
but then things began to go awry. They also got into some wrong practices, and that
Mhm.
concept finished after about a decade, 9 years to be precise.
Okay.
Thereafter, most of them, the surrendered terrorists, were then put together in a territorial army battalion of
Mhm.
my regiment, Jammu. I am from Jammu and Kashmir
Oh,
Light Infantry,
yes,
Battle Line.
yes, yes.
So it was a very
Eastern.
bold experiment to take surrender terrorists, have them helping the security forces, those contras. It happens all over the world. It's nothing new. But to
Okay.
put them in the military, a battalion that
Yes.
functions along with others, they generated some excellent operations. They generated some
Mm-hmm.
excellent intelligence. Actually, that was their forte,
Okay. Okay.
and
Okay.
one amongst them several of them have been decorated with gallantry awards,
Mm-hmm.
but one amongst them got the highest award,
Okay.
Nazir Ahmad Wani,
Okay.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
from Kulgam in Kashmir. So he got the Ashok Chakra, the highest gallantry award
Oh
in
my
Kashmir.
God. Yeah.
So the next one that I'm writing, using him as protagonist and using my own experiences of JNK in different stages, I am writing. I'm working on that
Wonderful.
project. About the story of
Wonderful.
these sons of soil, to and by doing that, it also brings out the story of the terrorism saga in the last three
Yes,
decades. How
yes.
the terrorism grew, and how the security forces, army, Rashtriya Rifles came up, and how other things grew. So that is what I'm working on.
It's going to be a wonderful book, and we all wait for it now. And thank you so much for giving me the chance to interact with you. And it's really
Thank you
nice
very much.
having you over. And now
Thank you.
we have another brilliant writer we are going to meet in this panel. And his career graph has been more than amazing. I'm talking about Kulpreet Yadav is the second author we're going to meet. Like I said, General Dua and Kulpreet Yadav have many things in common. Uh, Both the books are about the battles fought in the army and the olive green uniform and various stories. And Kulpreet Yadav's book is about the Rezangla battle, mother of all battles, and fought so bravely. And I think there's never been a battle like that before. So this book is really worth reading. I should say, his career graph has been very amazing. Kulpreet, as a child, he studied in the Kendriya Vidyalaya in Chandigarh, and then he moved to Pune to study in the Varia College. He joined the Naval Academy after graduation and joined the Coast Guards. He commanded three ships and left after 23 years of service in 2014. After 23 years of service, he got the rank of the commandant and then he left the service. After retiring, he followed a very different path and chased his dream of becoming a writer. He's written about 14 books. Many of them are suspense thrillers and very popular suspense thrillers. And he wrote for two short films and even acted in them. But his writing career took a upward turn when in September 2021 he wrote a book called The Battle of Rezangla. I can't see Kulpreet on the screen. Is he there?
I think he's yet to join. So, Gitanjali, maybe we
Oh,
can take some questions about right now till he's there, till my book, and then we can buy it. I mean, by that time, hopefully.
yes. I think we should do that. Mm, I suppose Kulpreet will join us shortly. But then let us talk about the families on your various postings and um, you know how
Can we
they
take the
react.
question? Sorry, I do you want to take the questions now? Because I already see some questions flashing on the screen.
Are they? Annie, I can't see
Yeah,
them.
I can. Okay, let me read out the question that is in front of me
Yeah.
by Deepti Menon. She says, Janal
Yes.
Dua, how long did it take you to finish writing your book? And how did you decide what you had to put in, given your vast experience within the army and over the
Decades.
decades? Um, that's really a very good question. Thank you, Deepti. And uh, see, the different stories, if anyone has read the book, you would realize that it's not only about bravery stories. I mean, I've been part of or have many gun battles and operations uh, with the terrorists or on the line of control. But if I tend to just tell different stories, then it will be fairly repetitive. So one has tried to take a few of those stories. I've taken some which try to describe the life on the line of control. I've actually taken a story which line of control was very different in the early 80s when I was posted in Kupwara as a captain. It was very different in 1998 or 2000 when I was commanding my battalion 20 years later. So, I have it's story about training for commando training, or story of a hospital. Now, somebody would find the base hospital in Srinagar handles patients which are only trauma cases. Somebody's blown up his foot, somebody's got gunshot wounds, somebody's got grenade shrapnels. So, things like that when they happen. So, I've tried to take very different stories and not be repetitive. Stories about families, like a story about a phone booth, like we just spoke of it. So, that was my idea, to sort of talk about different things, and that's what it helped me decide different stories. I hope I answer your question.
Yes. Yes. That was wonderful. I can see Kulpreet now. Kulpreet, uh, greetings to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can hear you,
Nice to have
Geetanjali.
nice to have you on the panel. And I said some very good things about you. You want to hear them again? I was just
Okay,
telling them about
thank you very much.
your
It's a pleasure.
your career graph and how you've been in Coast Guards and things like that, and then you after retirement, how you took to writing and 14 books, isn't it? 14 suspense thrillers. Are they
That's
different
right.
kinds, or they all suspense thrillers?
Yeah, most are suspense thrillers, espionage mainly. But I've also
Mm-hmm.
tried my hand at collection of short stories, a romance novel,
Oh,
a romantic thriller, and horror book as well. So I've been
oh,
practicing,
that's really a
trying my hand
variety
at a lot
of
of
books
things.
you've
Yes,
written.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and then you wrote some short films also, scripts for the short
Yes,
films.
that's right. That's right. I produced uh, three short films, out of which two have been released. They're based on my stories,
Mm-hmm.
and they're out there. Yes.
Is it different writing for a book and writing for short films? Is there
Uh,
any difference in writing
yes, yes. Of
as
course,
a writer?
of course. It is different. Before I do that, let me present my greetings to Lieutenant General Dua, sir. It's a pleasure and
Yes.
honor to be on the same panel with you.
Thank you,
Um,
Gurpreet. Thank you very much.
so
It's
it
a
is different
pleasure
in
to
the
interact
sense.
with you, Gurpreet. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you, sir.
I was wondering, you were having some technical problems initially,
Yes, I
so
was.
I'm glad.
It was quite crazy, and I don't know. It's just a bad day, maybe, but I'm glad
No,
that
but
all
I'm
that has been
glad you're
sorted.
back on the screen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. To answer your question, Gitanjali, it's actually about the way screenplay is written. It follows a different standard format across the world. So it is more short, and what goes on in the characters' heads in a story that you can write, in a
Yeah.
screenplay that has to be written in the form of action. So it
Oh,
is,
yes.
I would not say that it is harder, but it requires a different kind of a skill that can come with a little bit of practice. And as I move from short films to now making feature films and web series, that's my
Oh, wonderful.
next
Hmm.
stop. So I'm spending a lot of time in focusing on how to write an appropriate and impactful screenplay.
Yeah, like Gulzarji has published, I think, his screenplays in a book form. You should also do that, so people who want to learn how to write screenplays can study
I
that.
think that's a great idea, but I think a very, very long way for me to go.
No. So coming back to Rezangla, I want to
Yes.
ask you what, because you've been in Coast Guards and you were not even born when the Battle of Rezangla was fought.
Yeah.
And then for you to go and write a book on Rezangla, how did it come to your mind? I mean, uh, how did the idea come to you? How
Yeah,
did
no,
you go
thanks for
for
the
it?
question. Yeah, it's a question that a lot of people have asked me, because prior to Battle of Rezangla, I had not written any military history or military nonfiction book.
Yes.
And the I would try to be very brief, because I think we've lost a lot of time. Um, so Rizangla was one of the battles that I have been hearing from my childhood whenever I used to visit my village in Haryana, because most of the soldiers came from the plains of Haryana, South Haryana,
Mhm,
and two of
mhm.
them were directly related to me. And I had been hearing their stories of valor from childhood, and my father was in Air Force, so I used to study in Chandigarh at
Oh,
that time. But back at school,
oh,
nobody
people
had heard
like
of
this.
Battle of Rizangla. Then when I went to college, my father moved to Pune, and I was in Nauruchi Wadia College there. There also nobody had heard of Rizangla. Naval Officers Academy, no book on Rizangla, no information. 23 years as an officer in uniform, three
Yeah.
commands, went and spoke to a lot of Jawans, a lot of officers, but no one had any clue. And I kind of thought maybe that is it. But having written so many books around 2.5 or 3 years back, one day early morning, and I know it sounds very filmy, but I just had this feeling, those 110, 120 Jawans who had 110 of them had laid down their lives in 1962 in that
Yes.
bitter cold,
Yes.
and nobody knows about them. I mean, they are the heroes of the local villages they belong to, and why shouldn't the
Right.
nation know about it? Now, that
Yeah.
was just a thought, but writing a military history book, a non-fiction book, is definitely not an easy task. So it took me a
No.
lot of time to research. For 2.5 years, actually, I did nothing but meeting these
Yeah.
survivors, visiting 13 Kumaon, the battalion, the
Yes.
Charlie company of this battalion fought this great battle, and read whatever was possible. And also, in fact,
Mm.
the politics of it, the military angle of it, the intelligence angle of it. So in fact, it was something like I was reading everything that had happened from 1947 till 1962. So all the books written by retired defense officers, the IB chief's book, and whatever basically was available on this battle,
Yes.
that I read and researched. And then my brother, my own brother, he's in army. He was in army. He took voluntary retirement, just like me, about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And once I had written, so I shared it with him, just to see the correctness, because there should be no blunder. I was very
Yeah.
careful
Yeah.
because I was mindful of the fact that I've never been an army officer. I mean, I've been an officer in uniform, but Navy and Coast Guard are very, very different as compared to
Yeah.
Army. And I
Yeah.
wanted to write an authentic book. And now it really makes me, feel very comfortable that even the retired Army officers who reviewed the book, General Kadian has reviewed it for Tribune, and one colonel, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name, has reviewed it for Hindu. They're
Yeah.
retired officers, they're well decorated officers. It's a great validation to all the effort that has gone in. But over and above, Gitanjali, to be very honest, I think this is a great battle from which we can take a lot of inspiration as Indians,
Yes.
as not just as
Definitely.
the Indian Army,
Definitely.
and it can be a guiding battle for whatever we do in life, be it courage, be it time management, be it hard work, be it discipline, be it training, be it camaraderie, teamwork. I mean, even people from corporate sector can draw a lot of lessons from this battle, because when the battle
Right.
happened, and the few survivors who came back and they told the commanding officer and the brigade commander that we succeeded in stopping 5,000 Chinese, nobody believed their account.
Yes. Yes.
and
Just
and and and
120 of
and,
them.
and
Yeah.
rightly so, because it is something seemingly impossible. But now we know that these soldiers and one officer, a few JCOs, and these soldiers indeed were able to do this, and that's a great
Amazing.
lesson
Yeah.
for us.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry,
Very true.
I
So
think I've
you
taken more foot off my time. Yeah, sorry.
No, 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 not at all. One little question I want to squeeze in, because as a writer, I think it will help a lot of other people who want to write. That you said that you mentioned that the incidents are true, but the conversations and the way you built up the interaction between two characters is imaginary. So how did you
Yes.
combine this? Like,
Yes.
it's not an easy job. To How did you do it?
Absolutely. No,
It's
that's
really.
a very important question. Gitanjali, to be honest with you, I have interacted with young students after my retirement in about 300 colleges and schools in India as a motivational speaker,
Yes,
which I did for a while,
yes.
for about 4 years or so. And
Mhm.
having interacted closely with them, I have realized that the way, that old-fashioned writing, which tend to be very descriptive, and
Hmm.
a lot of foundation is set before the actual action comes, probably is not going to work, because the intention of my writing this book is to allow the young Indians to know that this war existed. Now, as far
Yes.
as the dialogues is concerned, see, it's all factual. But if you say, one platoon of 13 Kumau moved on so and so date from Leh to Chushul. Now, this is a fact, right? And they went by jeep, and the road had just been built 2 months ago, and the temperature was so and so degrees. Now, instead of writing it like this, it can be a conversation.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
a
But
jeep, two
it's
soldiers are
very well
talking.
done. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
very well done.
yeah, we just had breakfast and now we've got shakar paras, and how do you feel? Are you missing your home? And it's a
Yeah.
very
You bring
natural
a
thing
lot
for
of,
someone to
yeah,
say, yes, we
detailing. Yeah.
are. And okay, how many hours to go to Chushul? And the other person says it's going to take so many hours. And oh my
Yeah.
God, the weather is like this. I mean, so,
Yeah.
the conversation actually makes the descriptive part come more
Very true.
alive.
Very
But
true.
I've been very mindful of the fact that I do not put conversations in which things are totally fiction. As
Right.
far as possible, they should actually convey the facts in a way that is more interesting. That was my
Yeah.
intention. It was hard, and we had to delete a lot of dialogues, particularly when I was talking to my brother, also with my publisher, and few other people who helped me and thought this doesn't look good, this doesn't.
Yeah.
So we cut out all that. So it's a balance of description and dialogues to make it lucid, to make it
Yeah.
make the facts stand out.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking to you. Battery is running low. It's been wonderful to talk to you about things, and I wish we could have a longer conversation, Kulpreet, because it is so interesting, and it's so unusual to meet two great authors and talk to them at the same time. I've been very fortunate to be on this discussion. I think we should have another session. Thank you
Yes,
so
yes,
much.
you must.
Thank you
You
so
must.
much.
Thank you.
Before I move to questions and answers, I want to just tell you about my recent book, which has been published by Vishwakarma Publications. And I'm an Air Force wife. I'm wife of Air Marshal Avinash Joshi. And my husband fought the war from Pakistan, Pathankot with Pakistan, and he was awarded for it. So I have experienced the war myself and many around me, and I thought somebody should put across how the ladies coped up with the war. So this is the book
Wow.
Vishwakarma publication has taken out. Can you all see it? I can't figure out whether it's
Yeah,
showing it.
excellent. And
Great.
what's the title, madam? If you can tell us the
The,
title of the
the
book.
title is 1971. In Marathi, we say 1971 युद्ध,
Okay.
धैर्य कथा वीरपत्नींच्या. These are 12 stories written about various wives, not only just officers' wives, but airmen, and even our Dhoban who used to wash clothes for us, and how each one faced the war and her in their own way how they contributed to the war and looked after the heroes and looked after their homes. So this is the book Vishwakarma has published. Please do read it.
Great.
So
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Geetanjali. And as we were
thank you,
discussing
thank you
before
so much,
Kulpreet
thank you
joined us,
so much.
we
it's
really
it's
need to hear these stories. We really need to hear
yeah,
these
yeah.
stories. Yes, thank you for
I
bringing them
wanted
up.
to document it somewhere what the women went through.
Great.
So it's been great talking to you both, and I think now we could see if are there any questions from the audience. I think
Yes.
Dipti Menon has a question for you. Hi,
Yeah.
Kulpreet.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. You've tried your hand
Yes.
at many interesting genres. Which do you feel is your favorite one? Is it more difficult to write romance, suspense, or a war memoir?
Thank you, Deepthi, for that question. It's a difficult question to answer because when you talk about your books, so they're just like your own, creation. Some people call them babies,
Yeah,
etc. And we all get emotionally attached to what we do in the creative expression, like a book. Um, but I would like to say that nothing actually moved me the way Battle of Rizangla did, and
yes,
it just it was such a fascinating effort. There were obstacles, and there were people who said you will not be able to do this. I don't think I was qualified at the beginning of that journey. And the whole once the book came out in my hands, and we had a difficult moment because my father
Yeah.
he was an advanced patient of Parkinsonism, and he passed away on
Oh,
31st March, and he was
sad.
desperately waiting for this book to come. He said, "Beta,
Mm.
when is that book going to come?" It was also a very emotional period for me because he was sick and he
Yes.
was in and out of hospital. I was very, very close to my father. And to come back to the question, I think this is something that I'm really proud of. I'm proud of all my books, but this has been a very fascinating experience.
Yes, yes, I'm sure. I'm sure it is. I don't think we have much time left, but I
Uh,
just wish
can
you
I
all the
can
best.
I ask something? Can
Surely,
I just make
surely,
a comment to Kulpreet?
surely,
Oh, certainly, sir.
surely, sir.
Gurpreet, I've not read your book as yet, but I've read the review and read about it. And as an army officer, I've been to Razangla. I know the story. I don't know the conversations that we must have put it more in an interesting manner and more details. I think this is a great idea for making a Bollywood movie. I hope someone
Bollywood.
Yeah,
picks it up
but
because
I hope they
this.
make it well.
Yes,
That's what they
I,
ruin
I,
it.
no, yes, yes. It should not. Anyway, I won't take some names. I would say it should not be like this. But
Yeah.
this reminds me always. This action reminds me that Battle of Longewala, on which the movie
Yes,
Border
Yes.
was made. Because there
Bollywood.
also, of course, here many sacrificed their lives. There we were successful in holding them off. But
Right.
the idea is it's a similar that ethos. There also they decided they would all perish. I mean, they came out
Yeah.
victorious without so many losses, much
True.
losses.
True.
That's a good thing. Here they actually went down. My point is this, like Kulpreet brought out, this can be a very stirring emotion in the nation to bring out this battle, especially nowadays when everyone knows about Galwan and what's happening in Ladakh and
Yeah.
ice is
Yeah.
holding.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
great. I
Absolutely, sir.
really relate to that. My battalion did that capture of Siachen, the highest attack in the world, and got captured Bana Top, Paramvi Chakra, Mahavi Chakra, and many other awards.
Yes.
But
Yes.
this is a great, I can relate to what you're
I really wish a nice movie
saying.
comes out
Thank
from
you.
that.
Thank you, sir. I
Kulpreet,
completely
I
agree
hope
with
your
you.
next
And
I
sorry.
hope your next book is on Coastal Guard life because people don't know
Uh,
much about that also.
yeah. No, no. It's
Do
it's
write about
actually
it. Yeah.
it's a strange fact, that in India,
Yeah. We must know
being
more
a
about it. Yeah.
yeah, people don't know that much about Navy. So Coast Guard being a much smaller organization, people don't know about it. Yes, there is a plan. I
And
probably would
yeah.
be writing the naval stories, the Coast Guard
Yes.
anti-smuggling, anti-piracy stories. When it will happen, that's difficult to predict as of now because I've got my hands full with the couple of film writing projects that I've taken. But to answer Lieutenant General Dua's comment, sir, thank you very much. In fact, it's on my mind as well, and there have been some progress in that
Of
regard.
course. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people have gotten in touch with us, and in fact,
Great.
we've done a kind of a documentation as well. And I think in January we should be able to announce this good news. And yes, very much we should have this story in the form of a movie. And you've given a perfect example of Border, so that's there
That
on the
Yes.
that
cards.
that would be lovely. And I must thank both of you and wish you the best. And I hope many more books come out so the
Thank you.
readers are, they say a book is like a ship that takes you on a voyage. So we would like to go on these different lands with your books and meet different people, visit different worlds.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. It's been
Thank you
wonderful
very
talking.
much. Thank
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 you
you
you.
very
very
much,
much.
Thank you,
Geetanjali,
madam. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
for
so much.
inviting us. And Kulpreet, nice interacting with you. We'll interact off this virtual medium sometime.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
definitely.
Thank you.
All the
It'll be
very
a
Okay.
best.
pleasure.
Thank you.
All
Thank
the
you, sir.
Thank you.
best.
Have a
Have a
nice
good
day.
day.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Jai Hind.
Jai
Hats
Jai Hind,
off
Hind.
sir.
to our brave hearts. And thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Satish Dua, Mr. Kulpreet Yadav, and Miss Geetanjali Joshi for being our PILF guests. Please join us at 3 p.m. for our next conversation. Yours truly, Remo Fernandez.